Okay, ready.
So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us with the Wish Alliance's Cosmic. Sorry, it's not Cosmic Conversations. That's on our Thursday night. I'm so excited about what's coming up. We have our Conscious Awakening series tonight, and I have my beautiful co host with me, Miss Michelle Anderson. So, thank you so much for being here with us. And tonight, we have a very special guest. We have Mary Hardy, who is going to be here talking with us about hopefully some things from her two books. The one is on the pyramid energy, the philosophy of God, the science of man, and the Alchemist's Handbook to Homeopathy. And so Mary's also going to share with us some information about the Holy Grail Vortex and how the Knights Templar came to her in etheric form to help her bring all of this information forward for all of us. So thank you guys so much for being with us. I'd like to go ahead and talk just a moment about our good friends that's with us tonight as well. I want to go ahead and bring up Alan Steinfeld with New Realities. Alan, thank you so much for being here.
It's always great to see you. And of course, Michelle, I've known forever. And I'm so happy she's getting out there more and showing her face because she has so much wisdom and a beautiful heart. So I'm happy to support the Wish Alliance. And Mary, I saw her speak once at a pyramid conference in Chicago, and she has a lot of wisdom. And she's a good friend of my good friend, Gail Mack, who, you know, is just a real amazing, beautiful being. So I'm happy to be here and support all your speakers. And when we finish recording this, we're going to put this live on New Realities at YouTube. So thank you, Sheila.
Beautiful. And thank you so much for being here with us, Alan, and always supporting the Wish Alliance. It means so much to us.
Mary, I want to hear what this, because I really feel like one of the things that you're talking about that you shared, I think I was reading the amygdala. Mary does all this work with essential oils and homeopathy, and that's a whole nother layer that I'm super interested in having you talk about as well, Mary.
Look,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to explain something to you. In 1968, I had a 3-year-old son named John, who we had to build a pyramid for. And when we built that pyramid, we put an orgone covering on it. Now that created 2 counterclockwise vortexes and 2 clockwise vortexes, and the earth is a motor. So that gave us an antenna system that is sending out orgone energy. How many of you know about orgone energy and Wilhelm Reich?
Yeah.
Okay, you know that is the life force energy that activates the standing columnar wave within your own body. Now, when you connect that to the center of the earth vortex, through a pyramid, through an obelisk, through a medicine wheel, you have a lot of power to control that grid. And that's what they want us to do. We have been given this gift to create the Holy Grail Vortex. And I was told to use the Great Invocation. You mentioned the Great Invocation. From the point of light creates a counterclockwise vortex, or the point of love creates a counterclockwise vortex. From the center where the will of God is known, the purpose God, that activates your chi, and that is a clockwise vortex. And then from the center, which is called the race of man, that's a clockwise vortex. Now, the Great Pyramid itself is layered. And when you layer something like the orgone blanket, you take steel wool, cotton, that gives you orgone energy. The Great Pyramid itself is an orgone antenna system. It is a layer of sand, a layer of stone, a layer of sand, and a layer of stone. So when we put an orgone covering on our pyramid, it activated all the pyramids all the way around the world to orgone energy. Orgone energy is our life force energy. So we have an antenna system. And if the New World Order tries to break in that, they can, because this is a gift from the elders of the planet to humanity. And think of all the power you have in activating. How much power does the earth have in its vortex? It has a lot of power. And that's why we can take down hurricanes, take down tornadoes, and do all this wonderful stuff. Now, it was very hard for me to have people visualize the four vortexes. And that is why when Steve Beldeck came along and started making cameras, and Alan, you mentioned Gail. Gail has helped me with this too.
Right.
Gail and I are in Young Living together. So actually, do you have the picture of showing the four vortexes, Sheila? Can you show that?
Yes, ma'am. Let me.
Anyway.
Let's see. I have several of yours opened up.
I just want the short one. Anyone would be fine.
Okay. There's the Holy Vortex prayer, the tree meditation, and then we have this. Would you like to speak from this piece?
Well, that's the Holy Grail Vortex itself that shows you the four different vortexes from the point of light within the mind of God. Creates a counterclockwise vortex. In the center of our pyramid, with the orgone covering, it has a counterclockwise vortex. That's a thin light going right from the ionosphere all the way down to the Earth's motor. That's a counterclockwise vortex. The pyramid itself generates that. From the point of love within the heart of God, since you like the Great Invocation, that creates a counterclockwise vortex, and that takes it out to the side. Now, when you say from the center where the will of God is known, that's a clockwise vortex. So can you imagine all the pyramids all over the world performing this frequency and this maneuver simply because the Great Pyramid in Giza was an orgone box. It was a layer of sand, a layer of stone, a layer of sand. So when we put our orgone covering on our pyramid, it tuned that pyramid and many of the other pyramids. So if you understand antennas, when you understand antennas, you realize that there are thousands of pyramids all over the planet, even the Bosnia pyramid. Scientists don't understand this at all, and not in this way. But for the last 45 years, Knights Templar in 1996 came to me, and we started using and activating these antennas. And right now there are thousands, literally thousands of obelisks out there. And if we could retune these obelisks into antennas, we would have an antenna system that would rival nothing. So we change the frequency through alchemy. Alchemy is light, cures light. We could change the frequency of the 5G into something that was beneficial. The pyramid system, this antenna system has been given to us for us to develop ourselves. There was a man named Ph.D. Lingle. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he was the mountain man on Groucho Marx. He took his money and went up to the mountains and looked through the sense of smell, through the amygdala gland. He entered his frontal lobes. And when entering your frontal lobes, you transcend time, space, energy, and matter. So you can become the alchemist. And if you change the like cures like, I'm a homeopath, and then I'm an aromatherapist. And that's how I met Alan Powers. We've gone on many Young Living tours together, but and everywhere we go, we would do the Holy Grail Vortex, because this is a powerful antenna system. And I will say this, and I believe this, that in 2000 in March, when they activated the 5G, the history of entering a new electrical field on the planet is you had the Spanish flu in 1917 when they activated radio around the world. This has been a thing. So when they activated the 5G, they thought they were going to have millions of people dying. And that is why they set up morgues in Central Park. They brought in ships into New York's harbor to prevent they didn't know what they thought. They were going to have thousands of bodies. That didn't happen. That didn't happen because in the worldwide grid operated through Stonehenge and medicine wheel and crop circles, that's a whole science. You actually shut down the 5G system and put the life force energy back into that chakra system through your Mother Earth. And I totally believe that. Now, no scientist is going to tell you that, but I totally believe that they could not have 5G do as it did with the Spanish flu back in 1917. Does that make sense to you people? Sheila, could you show the performance of the Holy Grail Vortex, a short video?
Yes.
And Mary, that makes so much sense. Everything you just shared, I really, really appreciate that. Here it is.
So that's Gail. That one. Now, if you could show that. Engage your frontal lobes through the sense of smell. Clear your intent. 95% of what we do. Can you play it again?
Yes, I can.
Can we get some sound to it?
Can you hear the sound?
I can a little bit.
From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. May light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men. The purpose that the messengers know and serve. From the center which is called the race of man, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the doors where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Raise your hands up. And so it is. Everybody get to the center for love.
Can you imagine the thousands? Am I on, Sheila?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you imagine the thousands of pyramids that are all over the world? And when we put an orgone covering on our pyramid, we actually activated the Great Pyramid. And what they've done to the Great Pyramid is when I went over to Egypt in 1981, the pyramid was cool inside because the way they built the Great Pyramid, it was a layer of stone, a layer of sand, a layer of stone, a layer of sand. And they tried to discover what is behind. So they started drilling holes in the Queen's chamber. If you went to the Queen's chamber, you could see where they drilled these holes, emptied the sand out, took it out at night. So when I went back in 91, I thought, oh, I'm going to get up in the Queen's chamber and I'm just going to lay on the floor. It'll be so cool. It was hotter inside the Great Pyramid because they've taken the sand out. Now, when they took the sand out, that removed the orgone frequency, because the orgone energy is created from a layer of sand, a layer of stone, a layer of sand. That removed part of the power of the Great Pyramid. But when we put an orgone covering on our pyramid, that created this system. Now, if you wanted to take a tornado down, which has happened twice in our yard, we have stood out and done a tornado coming across the lake. You saw the lake there. A tornado coming across the lake. 4 or 5 people standing in a circle doing the Holy Grail Vortex. The law of homeopathy, the law of alchemy is like cures like. We've asked for the same frequency. You don't have to really do a lot of thinking about this. Ask for the same frequency, and that tornado just disappeared. Now, one time I was giving a lecture, and I taught some people back in 1980, because I've been doing this for a long time. We built the pyramid in 1975. That's right, Dixie? Yeah, 1975. I've been doing this a long time. So I taught some people in Oklahoma City, and they had a tornado come across. It was real wide. It stood there for hours. It destroyed a whole path. But when I went to the next convention, people said, thank you for saving my house, because they built the Holy Grail Vortex inside their homes during that tornado.
Wow.
And it saved saved their house. Can you see that? I'm looking at the vortex.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
See that?
This is important information to get out. This is, a lot of people right now are in fear about what's happening in the world. And what you're doing is you're giving us hope, and you're giving us a solution. And I think it's really important that we come together and we learn from people that have been doing this for a very long time, like you, Mary.
Well, I've been sent all over the world, believe me, by the Knights Templar. See, you want to go back to Y2K? Well, you remember what Y2K was all about? What was it about? The shutdown of the electrical system.
Right.
Now, if you stop the Earth motor for a blink of a second, what would happen to the electrical stations on the planet?
Everything. Complete chaos, you mean?
They shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you understand what happens? They tried to cap the Great Pyramid, and they built this huge Millennium Dome in the center of London's harbor. Now, if you ever went to the Millennium Dome, it's nothing but antennas. It was supposed to be a children's amusement park. They were going to try to move the Millennium Dome in London's harbor.
Okay. Uh-huh.
The Greenwich Mean Line. You can look it up. You need to understand. So if they actually they were going to transfer the energy from the Great Pyramid up to this Millennium Dome, and that would have taken free will away from the planet, because they would have had control of the grid. That's what they tried to do. That's why you had the broadcast of the electrical shutdown. But first of all, the Egyptians would let them cap the pyramid. But secondly, what they did is they put radio stations in 15 of the main cathedrals all over England, France, and Spain. And so when they put radio stations in these 15 cathedrals, they were going to send the energy through the radio stations, through the Eiffel Tower. That's why they put all these Ferris wheels up, because the vortexes are going into that so they could transfer this energy. That's why you have the Eye of London. You know what the Eye of London is?
I never ever heard this.
It's a huge Ferris wheel.
Uh-huh.
But you see, if they want to send energy, what they call a solitron, it's a tornado going around the ground, so they can control it with a Ferris wheel. Does that make sense?
It does.
So that's why you got Ferris wheels all over right now. So anyway, the Knights Templar came to me, so I went to in 96, 97, 98, and 99. I went to these cathedrals, Wells in England, Notre Dame in France, Chartres. I went to all these cathedrals, and my Knights Templars routed out the radio stations. Now, there's no proof of that. And people, when I start talking like this, people get up and walk out, you know? They aren't ready for the information. That's been my problem. But once you see how powerful the Holy Grail Vortex is with Great Invocation, that activates the center of Mother Earth. And you have pyramids, obelisks, labyrinths, medicine wheels. And medicine wheel, I want to say something about a medicine wheel. You can't use a counterclockwise vortex on a medicine wheel. A medicine wheel is what they call offshoots. That's why the Native Americans dance around them clockwise. You have to begin to understand the science behind this. But a medicine wheel, I'll just tell you a little story. One time I got up to do the Holy Grail Vortex in my yard, and Sitting Bull was sitting around my campfire. Not the real Sitting Bull.
Right.
He was sitting there. Just imagine. Okay. So I asked him, "Why are you here, kind sir?" And he said, "I'm here to save the sacred ground of Yellowstone, because there's a caldera out there that is ready to blow up. And see, there's a huge medicine wheel about 40 miles from Yellowstone in Montana or in Wyoming. And so they dance around there clockwise. They pull the energy up through that medicine wheel. Then he was sitting in my yard. We have an obelisk. An obelisk is tuned for a downshoot. An obelisk is a counterclockwise vortex. So if you look at the weather, clockwise vortex goes up, counterclockwise vortex goes down. Is that making sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for taking a minute to give us a time to integrate what you're saying, because it's a lot.
Yeah. So he was pulling the energy over to the Great Lakes from Yellowstone, simply by these antennas. And he had, of course, had Native American dancers there. They were all dancing around him, doing this energy. So you see, there's a lot. And if you study TDA lingo, click your way to happiness. How many of you have ever heard of TDA lingo?
I never have.
Yeah, through you, I have. Yeah.
That
I can feel a little notebook with a little email. Click your way to happiness, because your anterior amygdala gland takes you right into your frontal lobes. And when you go into your frontal lobes, you transcend time, space, energy, and matter, and that's where you can become a true alchemist. This
is connecting a lot of dots. And you were talking about TDA lingo was a member of General Patton's armored tank group in World War II, and was greatly disturbed by the acts of violence and homicide he witnessed. So after the war, he studied at 4 universities, always asking the same question: why must mankind kill his brother? This is an article you wrote many years ago. Is that right?
I did write that many years ago, probably 15 years ago. I've been trying to get this information out. You know what people do? They say I'm loony.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's why there's that term, the conspiracy theorists, and, you know, people are being told that when we have information like this, that it's too crazy. And I think a lot of people, because everything is so fast right now, things are moving so fast, but I think the most important muscle on our body right now is our discernment muscle. And that we've got to exercise discernment in order to navigate, what predictive programming is when people are placing thoughts into our subconscious field that counteract what you're saying, because then people will doubt what you're saying and think that you're loony, right? So we have to go back to telepathy. We have to go back to our intuition and using our body as that barometer. It's our body is an antenna.
Right.
And how things land there. When I read this and when Sheila shared, you with me, I could feel my whole body was vibrating, and I was feeling the energy of truth. The energy of truth, that you vibrate at a certain frequency, Mary, that my soul recognizes. And I just wanted, I want to know more.
Job. I thank you for your work, but I have a job.
You do have a
and
job.
the simpler that job, the better off you are. It has to be very simple.
Yeah.
Basically, when I got into the initiates, which I met a man named Kenneth Killick. Kenneth Killick was 13 years old when he went into the English War in 1940. And he worked in weapons design. And he's the one that gave us the covering of the pyramid. He's the one that was clairvoyant enough. He could look at an antenna and tell you which direction, where it was, where it went to. He could draw that all out. And he said, keep it very simple. And he gave us 4 exercises. Now, Sheila, did I send you those 4 exercises?
I do not have those. I don't have those, but if someone wants to send them, I can try to pull those up.
Well, I can send them to you and you can send them out.
Okay.
The important thing right now is for us to train our minds to use this antenna system. Because actually it is established antenna system. It is controlled by the crop circles at Stonehenge. Now, does that make sense to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Stonehenge
You're connecting a lot of dots.
Around Stonehenge is a huge chalk field. And every time there's a crop circle that appears, that changes the whole frequency of the whole grid through the earth. So a lot of people say, well, they want to, what's really sad, and I'm bringing this up, they want to build a tunnel under Stonehenge because they want to stop all this. So, but basically, you have the earth as a motor, and you can control it by your own mind's vortexes. And you need to understand that a counterclockwise vortex is created by a counterclockwise, that's a downshoot.
Mm-hmm.
A clockwise vortex is an upshoot. Now, when you have a high pressure in nature, the clouds, rainstorm, it takes the high pressure goes up, the low pressure goes down.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to keep this science very simple, okay? And we have exercises like click your way to happiness. Now, the brain, we have the glia brain. The glia brain, most of medical science, covers 85% of your brain. It's the white matter of the brain. It's the covering of your nerves. You have the glia cell. It operates on taste, touch, and smell. Now, if I'm probably jumping around, but I want to give you this information. The bottom of your foot is a roadmap, reflexology. Right. That's touch. Smell is the olfactory bulbs, takes you to the amygdala gland, takes you right into your frontal lobes. In your mouth, you have a parotid gland. That's taste. If you have a homeopathic remedy that has a frequency, like if you have shingles, and I give you a spider bite remedy that will remove the shingles in a short time, because that's the frequency, and that goes right through the parotid gland and goes right to the place. I had a friend call me up from Grand Rapids. He was a religious person, and he says shingles is related to syphilis, and I don't want to go to a doctor because I don't want to get a bad reputation. And I says, you probably just got a spider bite. I took him a spider bite antidote. In 3 days, the shingles gone.
Wow.
That's very powerful.
The story of homeopathy is what?
Like treats like.
Right. And I went to a homeopathic meeting in Chicago about 10 years ago. And the leaders were saying, we got to get rid of these false statements that were made so many years ago. There's no purpose behind like cures like. What is it? Like cures like? It's the same frequency. And so when you take it down a tornado, all you have to do is ask the fairies and demons just to keep the same frequency. And that takes the tornado. Now you don't have to think. You have to keep it simple. You follow what I'm saying?
Totally.
And
That's why you can put a fire out with another fire, right? You make a fire
Probably.
break out of a fire and the fire goes out.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
So there's some very simple laws, like cures like, and you got to get into your frontal lobes. And you get into your frontal lobes by what TDA lingo. He was the mountain man on Mount Marco. How do you say his name? Groucho Marx. If you go back and look at the old Marco movies. Groucho Marx. He was the mountain man, and he went out to Colorado, and he started using his frontal lobes, and you can look him up. There's some hideous YouTube stories about him, but anyway, it doesn't matter. You just got to keep it simple. Does anybody want to ask a question?
Yeah,
Sheila?
Mary, I just want to make a comment about the information that you're sharing. Tomorrow is the 2/22/22, and that is, the Pluto return, and it's all about transformation, and it's about transmitting truth. And that's what you're doing here tonight, is transmitting truth and allowing us to bring that into our bodies so that we can begin to transform, because tomorrow is kind of like the birth or the death and the rebirth. And so right now, the information that you're bringing forward has a frequency that's able to go out and to penetrate into those areas that need to be broken apart, those areas that we're trying to already break apart so that we can create this new paradigm. And so your work is so phenomenal. And I know you've worked with Gary Young, with Young Living for a long time. And I know, a lot of the work that you have done, well, actually your entire life has been about transformation.
I want to ask you a favor. Could you play the tree meditation?
Absolutely.
I think we can just sit back and follow the tree meditation. They'll get a lot out of it.
For sure. All right.
I like what the article says while Sheila's setting that up. When you talked about in the article that we begin to use a larger percentage of the brain, and that entering this gateway enables us to tap into a universal consciousness, and that when you're in the posterior amygdala, you deal with traumas and dramas of life. But if you jump or click forward into the anterior portion of the amygdala, you can reach euphoria. And he called that process clicking. These are great tools for us to be able to implement it during this particular gateway or portal time that all of us are really feeling into.
Well, basically, I can send you the 4 exercises: relaxation and wheels that we were We were supposed to do 2 hours of meditation when we were trained with Kenneth a day.
Mm.
Just sit back, put your feet on the floor, and listen to the 3 meditations.
Okay.
This video will guide you through an active meditation to assist in the healing of the planet. Through imagery and intention, we will connect with the tree's communication system. Our focused energy will rapidly spread to the network of the tree roots, interconnected by microscopic fungi. Let's begin by becoming fully present. Take a comfortable standing or seated posture with your bare feet connected with the earth. Close your eyes and take a long, slow, deep breath. Now imagine roots growing from the bottoms of your feet deep into the earth. Now imagine an opening on the top of your head, and then draw a beam of divine light through the top of your head and let it fill your entire being. Move into your heart center and feel the love you have for the planet and all living things. Send your love from your heart through your body and into your feet and then down into the tree root system. We can strengthen this meditation with the use of the Holy Grail Vortex prayer. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Come back to center. Start by bringing the energy back to your heart from your feet. Close the opening on the top of your head. long, slow, deep breath, and then open your eyes.
Did you like the tree meditation?
It was so beautiful. That was, I really, really felt that. It's kind of hard to come back after doing a meditation like that and just talk regular. I'm still connected with the tree's root system.
I'm trying to get the boys to make more videos.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been noticing that happened with people today is just exactly what you were verbalized, Michelle. It seems like they are out of their bodies,
Yeah.
and their minds are engaged, but the mind cannot connect with the communication to come out articulately. And people have been repeating things to me over and over today during the sessions that we have. And they're like, I don't know, I'm just so tongue-tied today. And I heard that from at least 5 or 6 different people. And then, of course, when we started the show, I got tongue-tied. And I'm like, oh, now I know what they're talking about. Because this energy that's coming in, whatever this energy is, you can feel even within yourselves things beginning to shift and to move. And I think hearing the Great Invocation a couple times tonight really helped me to come back into balance and to be more centered. I think I'm going to play that tree meditation a couple more times for myself tonight. And I'm going to put this on the Wish Alliance website for people that would like to continue this work. I'll put the Great Invocation and the handouts that you've sent, Mary, because I think that everyone is going to want to, read and study, because the information that you bring forward, the work that you've done through all of these years with the pyramids, including the Bosnian pyramids, all of this information is so prevalent today.
You know where the Great Invocation came from?
Alice Bailey.
Yeah, but you know why it was created?
Who gave it to her?
Dag Hammarskjöld. Have you ever heard that name?
No.
There's a Dag Hammarskjöld room in the UN. He was the second Secretary of State. Of course, he was murdered because he was people that he asked Anne Bailey to give them a prayer. And so it was a prayer to end wars. And so you have to keep the words the way they are. You can't say different words because it sets up a frequency to bring world peace. So if you say I divine meditation or change the words, you destroy the frequency of the Great Invocation. So you look it up and you keep it the way it was written. Okay?
I've seen many different variations. I know people change the word men to humanity, and people change the word Christ returning to earth to Christ consciousness. Which version do you don't have? There's a version that says something about avatars that I found today, and I had never seen that one. So there are a lot of different versions.
Isn't it written on the wall in the United Nations?
It's written on the Dag Hammarskjöld room in the United. I don't know if the Dag Hammarskjöld room's still there, but it used to be there, and it was written on the wall in
United Nations.
the United Nations.
That's
And there is
really
there's a room called the Dag Hammarskjöld room,
That's the original.
and that prayer is backed by that organization. There was, I don't know if there still is, because I have a friend called Norma Milanovic. You may have heard of that name before, but she spoke at the UN about pyramids to the Dag Hammarskjöld group. Okay, and she's a personal friend. She's in my Young Living downline. So yeah, that's. But you
Do
want
you
to.
see why this information is so relevant today, Sheila? I feel like we can't even make this up, that Mary, when we were deciding which date to have you on and which date to have everyone on, and how it just flowed so perfectly, because look at what we're facing right now in the world. Everywhere you see, there's a lot of deception going on, and a lot of people are believing one way when it really might be a different way, but you don't want to make them wrong and, get into an argument over things. So it's important that we bring this information forward in this sacred container that you've set up by starting with the Great Invocation, by doing the tree meditation. And I feel like what you've done is you've put a protective bubble around us, and especially with starting and explaining why the Oregon cap is really important on the pyramids and how that all came through. Sheila, I will say to you that in preparing for tonight, I wanted to see what you had written about Mary, and this article is on the Wish Alliance page, but the link that you put to the invocation, the Holy Grail Vortex, it links back to this again.
Okay.
So it linked twice. So we just need to change that link
Good
so that
to
it
know.
links to the Holy Grail Vortex.
Thank
And
you.
then Mary, if you could make sure that you send over those 4, you were talking about something else that we didn't have
Also need
on.
the Catholic Creed. Have you ever heard of the Catholic Creed?
Yes, of course.
Creed?
You know what? I have been saying that you're talking about the Catholic, the Church of Love Creed is.
Yes.
So I printed that document too. Interesting, because the Cathars came into my field of awareness through Jazz Maheen, a woman from Australia. She's a breatharian, and she has a peace organization. So you're talking about the Cathar. We should link this as well. Sheila, this is the Cathar prophecy of 1244 AD. Would you mind if I read it, Mary?
I don't mind. It's your show.
So this is
Let
something.
me just. I went to Mount Segur, and I did the Holy Grail Vortex on top of Mount Segur. That was the last. That was a women's dormitory for the Cathars.
Yeah,
I did that in 2000 and it was 2004, 5, and I sat up there and did the Holy Grail Vortex, and in 2 minutes, a jet pilot flew by so close the side of that mountain that you could see his lips move when he was talking on the receiver. You can't set up. When you do the Holy Grail Vortex, you set up a standing column or wave, which is what your chakra system is, and they can record that. So he wasn't 5 minutes, and he was beside Mount Segur. Okay.
I feel like there's some sort of a weaving that's taking place, because I was drawn to go there as well. And I went during the Feast of Magdalene Day, which is July 22nd. And I went to San Bom in the cave where the church near there, they had her remains in Sinbom, but we also went to Montsegur and that there's a lot of energy that pulses through our body. It's almost as if the way that I explained it was, it's almost like my body remembers something about a previous life there. And I never really explored it super deeply, but when this Cathar prophecy crossed my field of awareness, I was with Kathleen McGowan, who wrote a book called The Chosen One and the Book of Love. And she's very popular. And this is where the first time I ever learned of this Cathar prophecy.
We've read both.
So in a lot of these retreats we do, we read from this, because I think it's important to read so that what it's doing and what you're doing for us tonight is you're helping to reactivate maybe dormant memories that are stored in our cellular memories and in our bodies.
Can I say something about Mount St. Paul?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mount St. Paul is where the berries were set across. They were kicked out of Jerusalem. And Mary Salome and Mary Jacobi, have you ever heard of those names? They were John and David's mother. The berries is a title saying that you are a healer or a teacher. So they were sent over here. They landed St. Mary's Delamere, and they went up to Mount St. Balm, and they were teaching up there. Now, Alan will like this, because when Gail was up there with me at the cave, you've been to the cave, we were standing in front of Mary, and we looked up at Mary, and she turned her head and winked at us. Now, we all saw that. And that was a solid statue, the one that's at Mount St. Paul.
I believe it. I totally believe you. I had a miracle happen while I was there too, in the grotto. In that cave, the Catholic priests were doing a service, and they took Mary's bones from the church there and paraded them all the way to the cave. And they were speaking in French, and my husband and I, don't speak French, but we started doing kind of like our own little, the priest got really angry with us. He said we were doing a ritual, and he thought we were heathens or something. And my girlfriend, who spoke French, said, no, they're renewing their wedding vows. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I was being called to do an exchange of love with my husband. And we had these male and female dolls from South America that we were holding in our hands. And I had a little bottle of water that I collect waters from around the world. And there was a little trickle. It was a teeny little trickle of water coming from the wall. And I was trying to hold my bottle to get some of that water from there. Well, after my husband and I did this little ceremony that we did, and it wasn't anything we knew we were going to do. It was very spontaneous. And our hearts were very open when we did this. Next thing you know, the water starts pouring out. And I looked at all the people that were there with me and said, like, am I imagining this? And they all saw it too. So I think miracles do happen in that cave. So absolutely, I believe that statue became Mary and winked at you. I love that we can share these stories in a sacred space right now and know that we're just sharing our truth. We don't have anything to prove. We're just sharing our stories and things that have happened to us organically. But I would love
say about the St. Paul.
Sanbam,
Okay. Before they tried to cap the Great Pyramid, they locked up all these areas, and they locked all the berries at Mount St. Paul for 4 years.
Ooh, that makes me hot.
I know. But Gail and I went up there and we freed them. One of our trips to France, we went up there and we freed them. And I'll tell you, we went to several churches after that. And the berries were just grateful. And another thing, when Notre Dame burned, we were in Spain looking down, and we were in Barcelona, and we were looking down on the Church of Familiars built by Gaudi. Are you familiar with that cathedral at Barcelona?
Mm-hmm.
And 15 minutes before Notre Dame burned, we sent the Holy Grail Vortex over that church. Now, these are not coincidences, because what we did is, again, because we're used to moving the Marys, we moved them into a safer space before Notre Dame burned. That's what I believe.
Wow.
Okay.
You're so divinely guided. I appreciate that so much.
I guess we'll wait for our trip to Spain, Young Living. That's how I travel. Go ahead and read chapter 3.
The Church of Love. It has no fabric, only understanding. It has no membership, save those who know they belong. It has no rivals because it's non-competitive. It has no ambition. It seeks only to serve. It knows no boundaries, for nationalisms are unloving. It is not of itself because it seeks to enrich all groups and religions. It acknowledges all great teachers of all the ages who have shown the truth of love. Those who participate practice the truth of love in all their beings. There is no walk of life or nationality that is a barrier. Those who are, know. It seeks not to teach, but to be, and by being, enrich. It recognizes that the way we are may be the way of those around us, because we are that way. It recognizes the whole planet as a being of which we are a part. It recognizes that the time has come for the supreme transmutation, the ultimate alchemical act of conscious change of the ego into a voluntary return to the whole. It does not proclaim itself with a loud voice, but in the subtle realms of loving. It salutes all those in the past who have blazoned the path, but have paid the price. It admits no hierarchy or structure, for no one is greater than another. Its members shall know each other by their deeds and being, and by their eyes, and by no other outward sign, save the fraternal embrace. Each one will dedicate their life to the silent loving of their neighbor and environment and the planet, whilst carrying out their task, however exalted or humble. It recognizes the supremacy of the great idea, which may only be accomplished if the human race practices the supremacy of love. It has no reward to offer, either here or in the hereafter, save that of the infallible joy of being and loving. Each shall seek to advance the cause of understanding, doing good by stealth and teaching only by example. They shall heal their neighbor, their community, and our planet. They shall know no fear and feel no shame, and their witness shall prevail over all odds. It has no secret, no arcanum, no initiation, save that of the true understanding of the power of love. And that if we want it to be so, the world will change, but only if we change ourselves first. All those who belong, belong. They belong to the Church of Love.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I have to say, it's my honor and privilege to be in the Sisterhood of the Emerald Fire that Mary has established, and the power of reading these words, the power of, bringing this Holy Grail vortex into your life can literally move mountains. And I have witnessed time and time again changes that have occurred. And when I was led, well, I gave teachings for a full year on all of the sacred flames. And when we reached the emerald, I decided that we would do an activation because I was told we would do an activation. And I was told to go down to the medicine wheel. We have sacred ceremony land. I was told to build a pyramid, to put a square inside the pyramid, to put a circle on each side, to put a circle in the top, to put certain crystals in. I was told to paint, like, I forgot the number, but it was it was like 500 little bitty green sticks, and I placed them all around in the pyramid. And the day of the ceremony, it looked literally like there was just this glow, this emerald green glow all around where we were going to do this activation. And my guides collective, they said we were doing the ceremony, but they didn't give me the information. And so I'm conducting the regular part of the ceremony, and we leave and come past through the medicine wheel. We go over to, this was placed in the healing circle, and they still hadn't given me the ceremony. And the first lady was called up, and they still had not given me the ceremony, but I trusted that it would come. And they told me immediately what to do and how to use the crystals and everything that needed to occur. They told me the words to speak, and I drew an M on the inside of the women's hand, and I just placed my thumb there. And as I had my thumbs in their hands and I was saying this prayer, when I released it, their entire palms turned emerald green, and it came up into their arms. And I think Janelle, that's with us tonight, actually, Janelle, were you at that ceremony?
I'm just sitting here giggling and remembering all those things as you tell it. Because later you were like, nobody told me. But what I recall the most powerful was I was standing across from Audrey. And when she received hers, she smiled at me because we were both so thrilled to be there. And green came out of her mouth, like her teeth turned green. And it was so remarkable. And we were just like, oh, wow. Beautiful.
That's powerful.
It was very powerful and very beautiful.
Yeah, it's super powerful work, working with the flames, and especially working with the energy of the Marys that we did. And we incorporated the sacred oils, and we would do anointing each month, and we would work with the energies of the oils throughout the month and work with the different prayers associated with the flames. And by the end of that year, everyone had grown and shifted and changed so much that some of us didn't even recognize ourselves. And so these prayers are very, very powerful. And Mary, I appreciate your putting the sisterhood together. I appreciate and honor all of the work you have done. And I am sure there are people that may have questions or comments that they would like to share. But I also know that it's very late your time. Are you up for maybe 15 minutes of question and answer?
Do what, honey? It's all right.
Okay. So let's go ahead and.
You could ask her too. Yes, you can, Dixie.
Okay, Susie.
My Mine's real quick. That first video where the vortexes were going, is it done with intention? In other words, you get the one intention going clockwise, and then the next, and you just do it by intention?
No, when you say from the point of light, you go all the way up to the ionosphere and visualize a powerful beam of light coming out of the cloud, going all the way to the earth motor. From the point of light within the mind of God, the light stream forth into the minds of men. Then when you say from the point of love, you go out about 3 feet, depending on how big you're going to make it, and put another counterclockwise vortex. They're counterclockwise because remember the pyramid is counterclockwise on the inside and clockwise on the outside, and they are antennas. So you're activating all of these antennas all over the world into the earth motor. That's why we can take down hurricanes and tornadoes with this prayer. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Did that
amazing.
help?
It does. Very, very. It reminded me of Merkaba. You get one going one way and the other going the other way, and I go, oh my God. But yeah, I hope we have access. Sheila, you're putting this in so we can study this. Absolutely amazing, Mary. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, I tried to. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think April has already uploaded it onto the website.
Yay, April.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you, Mary.
exactly.
That'd be
Woo.
wonderful.
It would help you also for, I got an award for the Golden Pyramid people, Marta Thomas. Just looking at that award helps you understand how the pyramid works. Okay? Gail introduces that.
Do you want me to show that, Mary?
All your videos can be found on your YouTube channel.
Okay, I have a YouTube channel, Mary Hardy YouTube. All of my videos, there's about 40 of them.
Wow.
So you got a lot of work to do. And I
We have
want you to
homework.
watch, because Weather Warfare works with an obelisk out at Sedona. And how many thousands of obelisks are there on the planet right now? What the elders are asking is that we start taking the responsibility for tuning these obelisks. They're all over. There's war monuments, they're in cemeteries, they're all over. And they need to be brought into alignment and brought into a frequency to honor what we want to honor. It just takes a while for people to understand how to use this technology, but it's a very simple technology. Okay. I'm going to tell you another little story. When they didn't get the Millennium Dome operated in 20, what year was it? 2012?
Yeah.
When it was the Olympic Games in England.
I think that was 2012, wasn't it?
I think so. I can.
Yeah. They put 13 Ferris wheels all around the Olympic Stadium. They ordered thousands of body bags. They put missiles on top of all the machines. A Knights Templar stood in front of my band and said, "Go to London." So in April, I got tickets. They were cheap, and Gail and I went to London, and we went to Brighton. And my friend Duncan showed me, he says, "Mary, they put 13 of these Ferris wheels around England, all pointing at the Olympic Stadium." Now, you know enough about the technology. You turn a Ferris wheel one way, you get a clockwise frequency, you turn it the other way. They put pyramids on top of all around the dome. How we stopped that is I just took four, at each Ferris wheel, I took 4 Knights Templar with their shields. They shot the energy back on the Ferris wheel, so it shut it down. And from that point on, we had helicopters everywhere we went. There were helicopters over us, and they wanted And they sat us down. We made arrangements to go see a lady. She charges $500 an hour for a reading. She called us up and said, would you like a reading? So we went to her and got a reading. And what she said to me, she went like this, just what did you do? That's what she wanted to know. Because they couldn't figure out what we did. Because we took 4 Knights Templar, stood them in front of the Ferris wheel. You get this information if you start working this grid. And you guys are all intuitive enough so you can start working it. And that's what we need. We need to make sure that it's tuned up to benefit mankind. Now, right now, Trudeau is fighting with the truckers.
Yes.
And people are saying yesterday everything was crazy, right, Sheila?
Mm-hmm. And today.
Yep.
That's because they're beaming energy at the truckers, and they can make you actually take you right out of your body. So you have to learn to do a prayer of protection while you're using this information. Okay.
That's great information. Yes, and you've had occurrences where you have had visitation by military personnel to your home, haven't you? Visitors trying to figure out where the frequencies are coming from?
No, what happened is about 6 to 8 weeks after we built our pyramid and put the orgo covering on it, we had Navy intelligence come to our house. Okay. Now, back at that time in 1975, they put a worldwide radio station around the earth. Now, J.J. Hertog, when I told him this, he said, thank you, Mary, because that radio station was emitting extremely low frequency energy, and it would have fried the oceans in 5 years. At Sawyer Air Force Base in Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and all the way around, like at Marquette and those places, they went right down to Bedlarock so they could make this a worldwide radio station. And it was electrocuting the oceans. And when we put up our orgone frequency and shut down the Bermuda Triangle and the Great Lakes Triangle, it stopped the electrocution of the oceans. So they came and they wanted to know, first of all, of course, we didn't even understand any of this. And I told you we built the pyramid for my 3-year-old son before he reached puberty. When in 1975, we built the pyramid for him before he was 10 years old. And they interviewed him and he said, Mom, I wish you would stop telling people that they came out to discipline you, or they came out to find out if they do what we did. Of course, if we knew what we did, we probably would have been criticized. But they interviewed my 10-year-old son. They went out the pyramid and sat with him. And we just told him we built it because he's very dyslexic. That's why we had to build the pyramid. He wasn't of this dimension. He had dyslexia. And in 1968, when we met with John the Beloved and the elders of the planet, they told us that if we don't build him a pyramid, he will not remain our son because he can't function in this dimension. Okay, so that's why we built the pyramid. And John simply said, he laughed because, but Bob, you go around telling people everything about that it came to discipline you. They didn't come to discipline you. And for every year we have a conference, and for the next 30 years, because we built it in 75, we had a little band coming from Virginia who was a member of Navy intelligence. Finally, he said to me, Chino said to me, well, I won't be coming back next year. I'm resigning from Navy intelligence. So there you are.
So,
And intelligence of the good bunch of guys. So I think they were watching us and halfway protecting us, if it's at all possible.
That was my question. Why did you feel that the Navy intelligence was there? What was their role? So
Well,
there,
you go back to 9/11. What were the computers that were hit? Newly installed Navy intelligence computers in the Pentagon, because what they were going to do is they had the towers full of gold. We're talking about 9/11,
mm-hmm.
and they were going to change the money currency over to gold standard. And they had to take out the 3 computers. So they sent a missile into the Pentagon. And if you hit an airplane in the towers, you have to collapse the building to get rid of the computers on the 2nd floor. So that's what 9/11 was all about. It's getting rid of the computers to change the currency back to gold.
It's interesting.
Have you ever heard that before, Sheila?
No, I haven't heard that before, but that's very
Well,
interesting. I want to look into that. Yeah. So Mary, you have shared so much information, and gosh, it's already 8:30, 10:30 for you. So I am so grateful that you have come to be with us. And could you leave us with any final thoughts as we move into this time of transition?
Just learn to give your frontal lobes to transcend time, space, matter, and energy, because that grid system has been given to you not to use so much as to teach you how to transform yourself into higher consciousness.
Wonderful.
That is a golden nugget right there. And thank you for sharing about tuning the obelisks around the world, that they need to be brought into alignment. I think many of the people on this call tonight, we're all points of light wherever we are, and we can anchor in doing this work. Like Mary said, she made it really simple the way that she explained it. And we can take our groups and do this work and continue on. She doesn't want it to just stop. She started something that is supposed to move forward for all of us to pick up that baton. It's like a relay race. She's handing us the baton and saying, you go do this as well, and be open and follow.
I said, I'm glad you know Ellen Powers. Ellen's done this. We went to Alaska with Ellen. We've been to many places with Ellen. Sedona. We've done the Holy Grail Vortex together.
Beautiful.
You said you do Ellen Powers, right?
I know of Ellen Powers. It was Heather Powers that came on our show at the beginning, but she's the one that I've been doing the Great Invocation with. Interesting, same last name, and what a powerful last name, Powers. So Ellen Powers and Heather Powers, but it's important that we continue doing this work with the people that are feeling drawn to learn more. As you could see, we all leaned in when you were talking, Mary, when you were giving us the instructions. We all leaned in because we want to learn it and do it and practice it. It feels like what you're giving us the keys and codes to save our race.
That's right. The teacher appears when the student is ready.
Yeah.
And Sheila's got your whole group ready to learn this stuff.
Yes.
And the rest of you women.
And the beautiful,
right,
yes, ma'am. And the beautiful thing is, we have the group of women that I work with every month. We have this group. We have our New Realities and Portal to Ascension YouTube watchers. And so this message is going to go out to the masses. And everything you have said has given everyone brand new tools that they can use to transform really most anything in their life. And they have these tools that they can share with their friends. What Michelle is doing with Heather. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. And so that was another point that we began to discuss about. Pardon me?
Sheila, would you email Steve Valdek and thank him for his work? Steve
Yes.
you know Steve.
Yes.
Do you know Jeff? You know
Yes.
Jeff?
I think we had dinner with both of them, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
In Laughlin. Yes.
Email them and thank them for their work.
Of course. Absolutely.
Thank you.
The videos were beautiful. And they just provide the roadmap for us to follow.
This was wonderful. Mary, I have one question for you. When you talked about Sedona, were you in Sedona at a conference? Now I can't think of the name of the conference, but it was around January of maybe 2009, or maybe it was January 2009, 2010. I think Greg Braden was the keynote speaker. There were round tables. Were you?
Honey, I've gone to Sedona we put up the obelisk in 1980. And the people that put it up sponsored Gun and Roses. And they, as I said, the obelisk was turned over to I call them half-breeds. Hybrids. And so we've had to move the energy. Have you ever heard of Montezuma's Well?
Yeah, oh yeah, I've done ceremony there.
Montezuma's Well.
Yeah.
You know when I go to Montezuma's Well, how many rangers you think show up? You go out there's not very many rangers.
Yes.
I get a dozen rangers. I've had as many as 6 rangers out there watching me.
Wow. I only had 3. So it really interesting to see the way that we're weaving, the places that I've been drawn to, that Mary's been, because I really feel like I met you once at one of these events I was at in Sedona. But it's all
the lady that put Greg Braden on was, I can't think of her name right now, but Greg Braden and she's personal friends with Scale. And so
Kubrick, something Kubrick, or
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that we sat at a table together. I'm pretty sure.
I've been to Sedona probably 2010, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. And I've been out there because I have to keep the vortex straight over. And see, we moved everything from the obelisk. I'm about to say that. Okay. We moved everything, and I just have to keep it balanced because that's very important. If you look at the weather patterns and watch weather warfare, there was a line goes from Point Barrow, Alaska, all the way to the Falklands. When we put the obelisk out there, it crossed that line and took what they tried to do in 2014 is make the ice age out of the East Coast and put a drought in California. So that's what we've been fighting. And that's why I've been going all those years to try to stop that with the obelisks and the system that we have. And if you watch weather warfare, you can see that. There's a movie that Steve made called Weather Warfare on my YouTube video. And you can see how that line is. And we've been going out there putting a vortex over. Well, Montezuma's Well had a lot to do with it. Okay.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you so much for connecting so many dots for me personally. And I think for everyone in our group tonight, I'm really excited that this is being recorded so that we can share it with others who feel the heart call to step into action.
That you guys are listening to it. You know how many years I've been trying to teach this stuff. I go to those conventions like we went to, and talk to the people.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, Mary. That's not true. You know, that's what they say to me. You know what I mean?
Because consciousness hadn't reached the point that it could actually understand what you were trying to share. It was the information was at a different frequency than people had actually caught up to yet. But I feel like everybody on this call is caught up to that frequency and are ready to
Yes, they have.
continue on with this work.
I've gone over you a little bit, but I'm so excited that you got about 20 women or 25 women.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And
awesome.
sure, the thing with Mary, once you activate the heart chakra with this vortex, your hands will glow emerald green. That's why we're called the Sisterhood of the Emerald Fire.
Yeah.
Because Mary always wore green. If you look at pictures of Mary in France, Mary Magdalene, she always has green on. That's because when she was doing healing, she healed from the heart and the arms became green. And that's where the song Green Sleeves came from, because when the guys were carrying the blocks, they played Green Sleeves, but their arms glowed green when they were activating this energy to do that.
Wow.
And that's why we're the Sisterhood of the Emerald Fire.
It's very powerful work, and I'm very grateful that you've been persistent over the years, and I know that your work has really helped countless people, faces that you may never see. So thank you so much. And for all of our viewers, if you're interested in learning more about Mary's work, she does have a YouTube channel at Mary Hardy, Hardy, and she also has 2 phenomenal books, The Alchemistâs Handbook to Homeopathy, whoops, can't see that, and The Pyramid Energy, The Philosophy of God, The Science of Men. And I think you can get both of those on Amazon. There may be other locations as well. In the chat, April has put the YouTube links to the Holy Grail Vortex, and on the wishalliance.org website, we will have all of the pamphlets that we shared with you tonight, the Cathar's Creed, we'll have the Great Invocation, and maybe a few other little tidbits. I'll go through my notebook and see what would be appropriate that we could share. So, Michelle, I want to thank you for being an awesome and phenomenal co-host. It's always a pleasure to have you here. I want to thank again New Realities, and want to thank Portal to Ascension for all the phenomenal conscious expanding work that you guys do. And I want to thank you guys that are here with us tonight. You know, we've got quite a crew, and I want to bring everybody up that's still with us. And I thank you so much for being here. All of the energy that you share helps to create this beautiful sacred container, and we can just take this energy out and share it with others. So again, thank you so much, and until next week, namaste.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you
Much
so
love
much,
to
Mary
everyone.
and
Thank
Sheila.
you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Mary.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Janelle.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Michelle.
Love you.
Thank
Good
you
night,
so
everyone.
much, love. So much love.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you as
Mwah.
always, Sheila. You're awesome.
Oh,
So
good night.
amazing.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mary.
Thank you.
Sheila.